Hi, I'm Mark Sovey.
And I'm Jessica Betcher.
Jessica and I are students here at Northern Michigan University, and we wish to share with you one of the most prominent challenges on many college campuses. This is a serious health concern facing many young adults. I'm talking about STIs, also referred to as sexually transmitted infections. You may have heard of them as STDs, a sexually transmitted disease, but this starts as an infection, so generally referred to as an STI.
About 1 out of every 4 college students who are sexually active has some type of STI. During this program, you will meet Melissa, a fellow student dealing with issues of having an STI, Robert Trethewey, a doctor with the Dickinson County Memorial Hospital, and Lenny Scheibel, director of the Northern Michigan University Health Promotions Office.
We hope after watching this program, you will take steps in prevention, recognizing of the symptoms, and know how you can get help if you do contract an STI. There are lots of different ways to prevent getting an STI. The first and obvious solution would be to practice abstinence. Simply put, don't have sex. But if the person chooses to engage in sexual activity, what should they know?
Dr. Robert Trethewey has this general advice regarding sexual activity.
My advice for people who choose to become sexually active, practice safe sex at all times. And if for some reason that fails and you have signs of a sexually transmitted infection, see your doctor early on. Treatment is much easier that way, much more effective.
Early testing is important, and we will talk about that later, but I want to share with you right now what Lenny Scheibel said about how we might contract an STI in the first place.
It's really important to understand that when two people are enjoying each other's bodies as part of the intimate sexual process, if they're not careful in terms of sharing body fluids or having contact between intimate body parts without some type of barrier protection, it's possible then for some of those infections to be passed from one partner to another.
Mr. Scheibel continued by referring to a free barrier protection available to students.
Did you say it was free to everyone?
Yes, just check the Health Promotions Office, and they also have all sorts of health-related pamphlets.
We do make condoms available at no charge, the latex condoms for our students, and we can point students in the direction of where they can get other types of condoms if they're allergic to latex, or where they can pick up a dental dam.
As you have heard, there are actually several kinds of barrier protection. We asked him to explain a bit more.
Those interested in knowing what the most common types of barrier protection are, I think the obvious one that most of us are aware of would be a condom. The condom that's used mostly is a latex condom. There are other types of condoms for people who have allergies to the latex. And there's something, another type of barrier protection called a dental dam, which is used in oral genital contact when there's intimate contact between two partners.
Condoms not only prevent pregnancy, but they can prevent the transmission of most STIs.
So now we know 2 things you can do to prevent an STI. But what if you had unprotected sex and your partner has an STI and didn't know it?
Pain or burning, sometimes lower abdominal pain, more often so in women. A discharge from the urethra. Also, you can have lesions. In the case of herpes, blister-like lesions on the outside. In the case of syphilis, you may have an ulcer that forms. So there's a wide variety of presentations, and some of them can be rather subtle.
We also wanted to know what the most commonly diagnosed STI was.
The most common sexually transmitted infection is chlamydia at this point. And it's one of the ones that can be silent. So if you are sexually active and having any discharge, you should be tested for it immediately.
If you show any symptoms of having an STI, the earlier you get tested, the better opportunity you will have of being able to put it in remission.
I'm sure getting tested can be a scary thing for anyone. However, you can get tested right here on campus, and of course, it is confidential.
The first place for students on campus would be to go to the Valmetti Health Center. For those folks that are not interested in using a campus resource, we would make a referral to Planned Parenthood on 3rd Street, the Marquette County Health Department located on the way to Negaunee, or if people have their own private physician, we would encourage them to seek out their private physician here in town, or if they're a little nervous about that, making arrangements to go home for the weekend and seeing their private physician at home.
If you are viewing this from a classroom, look around. If there are 20 students in the class, then it's likely that 5 of them will have an STI. In this next segment, you will meet Melissa. In her early 20s, she was diagnosed with HPV. HPV is the human papillomavirus, which is commonly referred to as genital warts. In this interview, she tells us her story of how she contracted the virus, the steps she took, and how she's dealing with it today.
I've been diagnosed with HPV, which is a human papillomavirus, commonly known as genital warts. A lot of people don't like to say it. I caught it from having unprotected sex with my boyfriend at the time. Before we started having unprotected sex, I did ask him if he had been tested, and he told me that he had been tested for sexually transmitted diseases, and he told me he was clean, and it turns out that he wasn't. We had been broken up for a while, but HPV can take anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months to 3 years. It's a virus that stays in your system and can pop up whenever. The day I found the warts was absolutely terrifying. I had no idea what they were. I was in the shower, and I immediately called Planned Parenthood to schedule an appointment just to get them checked out. I couldn't get in to the clinic right away, so after I called and made the appointment, I had all this time to rethink it and wonder if I really did want to go into the clinic and find out for sure. And when I went in and she checked me out and she told me what happened and what I had, I immediately broke down in tears. I think anybody probably would. But it's a big, eye-opening, kind of almost life-shattering experience just to know that somebody's betrayed you. It feels like somebody's betrayed you in some way, or that you're dirty, or that, I don't know, you've done something really wrong, when really normal, safe people can get these things. I don't know. So I was diagnosed with HPV in fall of 2005, and it's a sexually transmitted infection that causes warts on your genitals, basically. They can be small or big. Mine were small. And I haven't had a recurrence ever since the first one, but you're never really sure if you're rid of it. Like I said, I had been broken up with this guy for a while, and I had started seeing somebody else, and I had to tell them. He was a good friend of mine, and he was naturally not excited about the situation, and he went in to get tested. He went in to get tested, and it was found out that he does have HPV. I haven't, outside of a few very, very close friends, I haven't told anybody, because it's not really something you feel like you can share with people and feel like they're going to look at you the same as they did 2 seconds ago. I come from a very strong Christian family. I don't think they would be very happy about this. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because my little brother is just getting to like that age where he's probably going to start to have sex, and he's going into college, and he's going to start to experiment, and I don't want him to make the same mistakes I did. There's a lot of people who have sexually transmitted diseases, and I think that the more people talk about them, the more they're going to realize that you're not alone, which is, I mean, that's a scary thing, is feeling like you're all alone in this and you're dirty, and once you can talk to other people about it, you realize that you're not at all. We are in a serious monogamous relationship, and when I started seeing him, I was very scared to tell him that I had HPV. We hadn't slept together. We put it off for a pretty long time, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all, but it was one of the most terrifying things I've had to do, was bare myself to somebody else and